Welcome, everybody, to the Sherry Schoen Show, Good Advice with Sherry Schoen. I am so glad that you made it today. And every Sunday at the same time, I'm going to be giving you good advice about everything from tarot, divination, psychology, music, celebrities, and more. My point and goal of my show is to show you right with a good dose of good advice. Then, after that, I'll give you a weekly shiny shot, which is just one more bit of good news that we're going to give you that we'll see until we see each other the following week. If you're new to my show and haven't been on my sister site on Good Advice on the Blog Talk Radio Network, welcome. Please be sure and chat me, Facebook me, or Twitter me later. I would love to hear from you. Before we get started with our interview with the wonderful Jordan Hoggard, I wanted to tell you about my week. Oh my God, Becky. So this week, I changed jobs from being a consultant at a pretty prestigious healthcare organization to now I'm a permanent person at my job. And I loved so much being a feral cat, y'all. But it was time for me to stop being the person that everybody came to for industry standards and for fairy dust, and to take the step and become that sister that needs to get some permanency back in her life. So that's what I did. I took some of my own good advice. I did a manifestation last year, and it all is coming true. So I'm pretty psyched about that. So another thing that I did was, if you've never tried these before, because we're on a budget until I can get my first official paycheck, and I don't know when that's going to be because my first official day starts tomorrow, we tried steakums tonight. So if you are not a vegetarian and you love really cheap, cool steak meat that you can chop up with some onions and throw it on bread and crust it up and put it up in a toaster with some cheese on it, oh yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Next, some people ask me, what the heck is your fascination with sun? What's up with shiny? What's up with sunshiny? What's up with Schoen? So when I was a little kid, my mom would always sing to me the song, You Are My Sunshine. And you know the song, You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine. See, Eric's probably going to be like, why is she singing? And it just sucked. My life has been really devoted to making others' days just a little bit brighter and funnier and happier, and showing them that they too can shine. So that's why I have the whole shine thing. When I was at Blog Talk Radio, somebody reached out to me on Facebook, and his name was Jordan Hoggard, for an interview. And I thought, what the heck? He wants to interview me? Why not like Christiana or Title or my favorite esoteric reader, John Michael? But he reached out to me, so I was all psyched. So we did a show a couple of months back, and it was fun, and it was hilarious. And I recommend you go on to the PIN Network and see our archive, because I thought we killed it. Well, I did a show, and right here on the PIN Network, and after that, they say the rest is history. Jordan Hoggard is an intuitive reader, but also an internet radio and TV personality host in his own right. He's internationally known for his deck of cards, the Tarot in the Land of Mysterium. He just put out the Area 52 Weeks of Tarot Day by Day. He has so many other things going on that I can't even imagine that he's doing my show, but I'm very excited. I'll say this a lot, that he is taking my virginity from the PIN Network, so I'm very excited. So without further ado, here's Jordan Hoggard.
Hi, Sherry. Thanks so much for having me on show. And
Thank you for...
This won't hurt, I promise.
That's what they all say? Okay, first things first. The topic of the 2003 season that I know has been on your mind just as much as mine. Do you think the popular stupid twerking phenomenon really got started with Beavis and Butthead?
You know, I stopped watching Beavis and Butthead back when I stopped the relationship and just dumped my TV in 2005. So I'm going to pull a card, and the card says yes.
You are so true. You are so true. So if you missed it, since it looks like you missed it, so Beavis and Butthead, I remember where it was Beavis or Butthead, but he used to do this thing where he used to shake his butt out, and he used to laugh and kind of go, look at my butt, my butt. So anyway, and that's where the twerking thing comes from. I just know it. I just know it. So how has your week been?
Well, it's been quite interesting and eventful and just ways. They're not really right or wrong. It's just kind of been like on a raft.
Yeah.
With somewhat of a rudder. And then just pull the rudder in and say, go faster, kind of thing. It's funny, though, there's an interesting thing. You know, I don't know much about R&B, but I had a neighbor, Mark Travis, an artist in Denver. And when he started it late at night, you know, I'd have my goofball electronic bagpipe Braveheart-sounding crap going on. And we
like that, yeah.
Shake the glass more, but he always did that twerking thing, and it was actually more of him getting into R&B, because it was it's like his chest would be flat out horizontal, his butt way over there, and he was really, really thin, so it was so cartoon exaggerated. So I think Beavis and Butthead just stole it too.
Well, doesn't everybody steal from the black community, really?
I think yes, Elliot. You know, if it's got passion and it's got soul, then it's going to stay around. So
it's going to stay around.
But I think T.S. Eliot said, you know, he said there's nothing new, but everything must be original, which means put your own spin on it and keep breathing. Because, you know, what am I plagiarizing my breath right now? Because everyone else is doing it too.
Yeah. Well, you can get to an extreme, I guess.
Yes, so there's a point you have to draw there, but you know, I think it's a good point though, because you have actually you have culture there, in the black community, and you know, honestly, I don't want to get all racist, but you get a hodgepodge in the other places. So you go to, I mean, everyone in the world can say Nolans, and they'll go to New Orleans, and you know what you're going to get. You say Vegas, and you don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what you're going to get in Vegas. Probably something that requires a shot, but other than that, I don't know.
And not a shiny shot. Not a shiny shot.
Except you're not going to get a shiny shot. Not at all. Not at all. Not even if you pay extra. It's not going to be shiny. So I start out my interviews with 5 questions. Some of them are this or that questions, and some of them are just plain crazy. Are you ready to get started?
Let's rock it.
Okay, so the first one, I did a poll on Facebook that I saw that you saw. So, and the question out there was one of the things that I should ask you about. Should I ask you about R&B or health and beauty or the Twilight Zone? And I think that I'm going to ask you a health and beauty question, especially because of how you look tonight. So, what does Jordan use to keep his locks looking so fresh?
Shampoo, and every other day, I tried to learn from a girlfriend years back how to make it work, because I've got thin hair, but it's really, it curls and does that.
It does. It does this cool little curl thing, kind of like what mine does.
Yeah, and it kind of ringlet up close and kind of thing. But what I do is try to wash it every other day.
Yeah.
But of course shower every day, and I'll wet it that same day. But
I'm glad you slid that in. Yeah.
Yes, I have thin hair, and this is throughout. You know, I know this is probably goofy, but I have long hair, so if I want to keep it, I got to learn how to take care of it.
That's the way to do it.
Kind of like a puppy, you know. But I wash it every other day with shampoo, and then once a week or so I'll condition. But to me, my hair's so thin that just tends to make it greasy the second day, because there's not there's not enough hair to in terms of the thickness of the hair to really work. And with hair like it's combination. Parts of it are, if I took a cross section, parts are round and parts are flat, and the flat hairs are the ones that curl, and the round hairs are the ones that stays. So sorry, natural cross section of the hair, but that goes to me with thin hair. So if that answers your question.
That totally does. I love it. I bet you probably have not discussed that on your show.
No, not once. A quarter of the time.
Only a quarter of the time, right? Yeah. I talk about my hair a lot. Only because when I first started out with growing my locks, I looked like I was having spider fights because it was about an inch long, and because I had to start with natural hair. And by the time it got to this length, I've gone through the embarrassing stages. I've gone through wearing, I don't know, scarves around my head, everything. So I love talking about my hair. Okay, so second one, what's your most embarrassing date scenario?
Most what? Embarrassing?
Date scenario.
Actually, I don't have one anymore. Let me think back. My first date scenario was always make sure I get avocado on the sandwich and be messy to see how they deal with that. Because people who don't know how to have fun won't roll with it. And they'll be like, oh my God, he's a slob.
Right.
I think the messiest or the most embarrassing one is I didn't realize I dropped the clicker into the car when I opened the door for her, and it fell into the door thing. But what happened is then she clicked lock instead of unlock, and it took 30 minutes for me to get into the car.
Nice.
Because then when she found the key, I said, "Oh no, just click unlock." And because she was clicked unlock in the car, it shut the car down, and we had to call the company so that they could, by satellite, let her out of my car.
Nice.
Because it's like a robber thing. And so, and then I had to take her home because she said, "Well, that was you're just very uncoordinated." And
No.
And so what I thought was kind of funny, that would just be good conversation, and okay, well, we broke that ice. I think won out because the embarrassing part was, I made a mistake choosing in the first place.
Yes.
So there's that one.
I love that. And I think that was a great way to look at it. It wasn't really an issue. It was just that really helped me, not spend any money on you on a date because you're kind of not very adaptable.
Well, exactly. And I in terms of, it's funny with the embarrassing question, because I have to now design a certificate for a friend of mine here in Santa Fe, because I used to have a running joke that I would pay you $100 and give you a certificate if you could make me blush. Because I just don't blush. And it's I just roll with the punches. So even if you blindside me and T-bone me, well, I'll just answer from across the room.
Exactly. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I mean, it's just life.
But exactly. But we were at an astrology meetup here in Santa Fe, and I said something, and she just turned around, and we're real impish with each other, back and forth. But she turned around and she said something, and my face just went vermilion red. And she, her eyes got really big, and everyone said, "Oh my God, you just broke his 25-year. He hasn't blushed in 25 years." So we can try next time.
I love it. Okay, so my next question for you is, imagine that we are in a disco or nightclub, right?
Okay. In the U.S. or
wherever you want to go, really. It's up to you. It's your nightclub. Yeah, it could be Germany. It could be anywhere. And so what I want you to do is pick one of your cards and show it to us, and then tell us what this card tells you you're doing in the nightclub, and I'll do the same thing.
Oh, this is rocking. I get the Two of Swords.
Oh, wow. Oh, my.
But
yes, it is a different nightclub. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that could be, but if you notice all the gold swords, but the one that's focused between the swords turns blue, so I think what I'm doing is I'm wearing all white. So I look like the biggest dork in the line outside. Total geek dork, both. You know, all semantics aside. Inside with the black lights, I'm the one who's noticed because I'm glowing.
Yes, you are.
So it switches from the gold to the blue. Like
I love it. Okay, so I have, let's see, I am using my albino whites, and I have the Tower card. So I don't know if everybody could see that or not. But basically what I'm doing in this club is I'm causing a whole bunch of mischievous kind of fun that I do to kind of knock people off of their high horses, because I love to do that. I'm a really good wingman at a nightclub, but if they think somebody is being too cool, then I'll totally come over and mess with them because I think it's funny.
Well, it's really actually kind of funny when people are dancing when someone's taking themselves too cool, because all that means is that they're really stuffy. Because if you're dancing and you now are egomaniacal, you have a control issue. So.
Exactly. Oh yeah, no, I got to take you down a couple pegs.
Yeah, at least 3.
At least 3. Okay, so next one. This is a this or that question. Smooth jazz or country's greatest hit, or a jab in the eye?
Or a jab in the eye?
Yeah.
I've had plenty of those.
Choice.
I've already had plenty of those. So I'm gonna say smooth jazz with country commercials.
Oh my God! Why?
Because I can switch from Beethoven to Queensryche to Evanescence to Rob Halford and Judas Priest back to When You Wish Upon a Star by some, the guy with a little banjo, or Over the Rainbow. I mean, so my music tastes are just like switching gears. If I like it, my joke is it's heavy metal to heavy meaning. So you could talk about quarter note triplets and percussion with Terry Bozzio, or you can go to things I don't understand in music theory with Tchaikovsky, but then come back to, Queensryche and Jeff Tate just going octave after octave, or Rob Halford doing the same thing, and I'm just peas in a pod kind of thing.
There you go. I'm a closet Metallica fan.
Nice.
I like
it.
Get I just
there.
Yeah, you get talking about being knocked down a peg or two. Yeah, when they first started, and Lars was like, "We're everything, and we need to copyright our own string chord." Anyway, so let's get into the meat of the interview. First of all, thank you again for being on my show and for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me. I had 2 questions from listeners. One of them was, can you make a business doing divination?
Yes, you can. And what's interesting to me is I find that it's not that you don't have to get yourself out of the way. You have to get your preconceptions out of the way. Because, for example, even for myself, the last 3 years have been somewhat of a struggle when I dumped architecture and just decided, step on the full transmission of my career to be tarot and writing and doing shows. But what happened is there was still that stuffy I'm wearing a tie architect in me that said that's not a real job.
Right.
And the thing is, I didn't believe that, so I didn't notice that was hanging around. And what that was just 25 years of patterns developed under my deadlines. So what I suggest is that you take the structure from your old job and you gut it. But you take the structure, because the structure will appeal to your habits. And little by little, build your divination business onto that structure until your divination business starts to dissolve that structure, and you'll find your own. But I feel it's one of those overnight. My joke is, I'm an overnight success after 46 years.
Exactly. Yes.
Tomorrow would be overnight, because not today. So to me, it's taking your structure with you from what you're used to, But for me, it's the parachute from jumping off the cliff kind of thing for the fool. But what happens is then you can take and fully support your divination business and not be thinking about what you aren't doing from the previous. Because habits die hard simply because you're used to them. I mean, if you've never meditated, you breathe in a certain way. And then if you have meditated, you naturally don't need to meditate half as much because you're breathing all the time a different way. So what I find with the question of can you make a business out of divination is yes, definitely. It's just instead of my distinction is a little fine grain on don't get you out of the way, get your established habits and preconceptions out of the way. Because if you start doing cut and paste replace, from example tarot to architecture, well, look, I have clients, but I'm not producing 45-page construction documents with 260, 300-page specification books. When I leave my tarot meeting, I'm done.
Yeah.
So the prep work is, to me, I think what I'm thinking out loud going through this, but I think the prep work comes down to the advice or the suggestion, or good advice from Sherry Schoen kind of suggestion, is it's like when someone asks me, how long did it take to do that painting?
Yeah.
Well, it could have taken me an hour or a week, but if I say that and the painting costs $1,000, no one's going to buy it because I just devalued it. They're going, oh, you're $1,000 an hour, that's absurd. So I consider my whole life up to that point. So the content to me to go to a larger scale with, to get past your habit, so your habit is smaller, is to look at your whole life, that it took your whole life up to this point to begin your divination business. And then that's a giant wheel and world card. And your first step then, the content is your divination business, but your whole life before that happened then. So I think look at your whole life up to that point. And if I get to a short answer, your whole life up to the point started your divination business.
Absolutely.
And the only difference is now you have to drop your own work in your own lap and then do the work also. So you're working for someone else. My joke in an architectural firm would always come in if I'd signed up new work. Hey guys, there's good news and there's bad news. Good news is I just signed up another project. Bad news is you've got to draw it. So
exactly.
When you start your own business, you have the good news and bad news, and the good news is I have work, and the bad news, I have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
And get more work. So divination business can be just like any other business, but there's also a different kind of build and a different kind of completion. Because you're going reading, and if it's a repeat client, the reading may build on some other reading, or it may be a whole new area. Whereas with architecture, your clients, you're dealing with property kind of thing, and even repeat clients, it's a different structure to how you go about it. So I think after that long answer, getting to your whole life to that point can make the habit small. Yeah. The one thing I would suggest starting your divination business is ask yourself a really big 5 of Wands question. And the 5 of Wands, in not a negative or a positive way, just as an essence way, could be, what do you see that the competition is missing? What the one thing you see that no one else sees? Because if you see all this catch as catch can between all the boys there, well, it's almost a star pattern in the Rider-Waite. Yes. Almost. And the one guy you see who's looking through to you is looking through the center of there. So he's focused on you. So you've got a connection through there. But there also could be a barn raising that's happening, and they're making the first truss. So now that goes against the grain of, what's the traditional answers. But a lot of traditional quote-unquote answers, that just means they're more popular, or that just means they're Rider-Waite. But traditional system is Rider-Waite, Thoth, yours, mine. We're all similar, each unique. So I would say when starting your divination business, ask yourself the pointed question and give yourself patience and respect, and don't be mean to yourself. You're your own boss now. So if you hate your boss, you don't like yourself. That's a bad fallout. So
that's a bad thing.
I would ask, what is it that I see and what is it that I do that no one else sees and no one else does, and let that set you apart. Because my joke in architecture was drawing pretty pictures is the smallest part of my job, but it's the only thing you client would care about. It's the only thing you know me by is the style part, but that's 4% of my time, maybe even less. And so to me, it's find that nucleus essence. What do you do? What do you see that no one else does? And build your business around that, because everything else is going to be TurboTax and all the other normal stuff you can get at Office Depot.
Absolutely, absolutely. You never want to be one of those cookie cutters. I think that was one of the things that I wanted with my business, was to make it more accessible. I knew that was where my gift was making tarot more accessible than what I've seen. Right. Now, when you were talking about the style, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I look at the Tarot and Land Mysterium cards and the Mysterium Tarot decks, there's a slight change between the two with the styles. What was the reason for the style change?
The reason for the style change is that, first of all, the basic change is that the arch doesn't complete over the top on Mysterium Tarot, and the arch does complete over the top, completely round out of the border of the card on Tarot and Land Mysterium. But Mysterium Tarot has nudity, and we decided with Schiffer, when I started writing the book in the first person, where the cards spoke. So I played a playwright. So there's 78 voices where, the devil will step in, hello, I'm the devil. And then, no, it's Pan. But he starts going through. Or the Ace of Swords will talk about his drama and melodrama lesson. I mean, about his own creation and being thrust into the water. What happened is we decided I was going to do one of the first decks for kids. And other than Isha Lerner, there wasn't a whole lot of tarot geared for young people. And so I wrote it in a very conversational tone, in a way that it was first person, like you're sitting in the audience at a play and the actors are acting the play out. And they just come out and they talk to you. And you have the center seat and you are the stage, but they're talking to you. And so what we did is I designed the nudity out, and the word we used was I kidified the deck. And the funny irony about that is the kids wouldn't care about the nudity. I mean, they would, it's just another thing. They don't react and respond like that. It would be the custom agent called Mom. It wouldn't get past her customs in the store when, buying the Playboy Mysterium, kind of thing.
Exactly, right.
So we removed the nudity, and then I completed the arch over the top, where the Mysterium arch, the original one, just stopped at the border and then came back to the border on the other side. But basically, in Mysterium Tarot, the top keystone was kind of missing.
Oh, okay.
And then there was nudity. And then in Tarot and Land Mysterium, there's no nudity, more like metaphysical leotards. So
I like that.
We'll stay with the heavy metal theme and go metaphysical leather and metaphysical spandex.
There you go. I like that. Another bit of good advice is, what do you recommend as far as good advice for people that want to get their deck picked up for mass production? What are some things that you can kind of shout out and help people with if their cards get picked up for mass production? Because yours was picked up, and from there, what did you learn from that?
Well, what I learned is I finished my deck in 2007, and I started running the rounds. And I started with Schiffer, actually. But their docket was already full up for the next year. So basically, they didn't have any room. I had a great conversation with Dinah Roseberry, and they really loved it and were interested, but they were just full. I mean, it's like the bus is full, and you got to wait for the next one kind of thing.
You got to move one for the next one, huh?
Yeah, so I went to U.S. Games, and I went to Llewellyn, and then Los Scarabeo of Llewellyn kind of thing. But I got this rejection letter from one of the big companies that said, we see absolutely no market for this deck. And I started laughing, because you don't put a qualifier, absolutely, in a rejection letter. You don't say, absolutely no, you just say no.
You just say no. That's a little harsh.
Yeah, and so what I did is I realized I had wallpapered my office closet with free mosaic rejection letters. So you open the closet, there's just no, no, no. I mean, kind of thing. No. But that brings me to my advice. What happened is then I realized with that, I can just be a consultant coordinator. I will find a card manufacturer. I will find a book manufacturer. I'll make my own boxes, and I'll put this together. What happens then is I had a full-scale, real-time mock-up. So when I was submitting after that, I just hand them a self-published deck, and they could look at it and they could immediately say, oh, well, we can do. Well, so what happened is Schiffer took that magnetic lid box. I rewrote a 200-page book that expanded it. So they saw it in the real time. So what I would suggest to you, if you're looking to publish a card deck, is make as real a mock-up as you can. And here's a funky idea. When I only had my majors and I was shopping the deck around, I just went to Cafe Press and ordered postcards, individual postcards of each one. So you get that glossy cardstock that's thick. And when they arrived, I just cut them down and rounded the edges. Or I actually didn't round the edges. But I had a full-scale mock-up of my cards. Now, if you turn it over, it's like address lines and place stamp here. But it gave me a full-scale mock-up. And it was just kind of a cheap, an inexpensive, cheap, creative way. It was like $3 for each card. But with, $60, I had a major mock-up.
Which is amazing. And it brings so much value to the person that is reviewing your work and approving it.
Exactly. And so I think I got those. It was like 5 or 10 postcards in a package. And so I remember after I shopped the ones out, then I showed up and I made handmade bark paper boxes to put them in and handed them out at the Denver Tarot Geeks when I was there.
Oh, yeah.
So that was in 2008, yeah. So my short advice would be make as real a mock-up that looks like you bought it in the store as you can. And shop your mock-up. Don't shop trust me, it'll look cool. Shop, just send it out. They open it up and they go, oh, don't think it's already published. So make sure this is simply a sketch. This is my draft. This is my proposal, and that's the key word I think in most of those letters is my proposal, and this is my proposed deck, because all you do is you take the edge off of being demanding and you put the ball in their court. And so I would say make the best, most highest quality professional mock-up you can of at least the majors, and
absolutely,
and shop that.
Okay.
And make sure you query first. Don't just dump JPEG attachment emails to people, because you will just get marked and you will get spammed, and then you'll only be able to self-publish.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's get some advice out there for newbies that are trying to read or just trying to get information. We were at the Denver Tarot Meetup East group that I co-host. And one of the things that we heard time and time again from beginner readers was they didn't understand intuitive reading. They wanted to do more of an esoteric reading where they understood every single piece of the card and why it happened. But it was something that Eric and I were talking about this afternoon that really struck a chord with me, is let's look through our decks. And I want to specifically talk about symbolism. So looking at your deck and then looking at my deck, because there was the Sun card from your deck that I really loved, but I'll bring out a card that I'm going to just pick out the High Priestess, and you can pick out whatever card you want to, and then let's talk a little bit about how important is it as an author, to have the reader understand the nuances of why you put everything you did into that card, because everything is in that card. If you're a good tarot deck author, you're putting things in there to help them glean, to help them read better, to help them get a further understanding. So how important is symbolism on that card? Absolutely not at all.
For for them to get what I intended. To me, my quote is, intention is overrated. It's far more important the way it comes across. And when it leaves my hand, that project graduated, and I can't speak for it at its job interview. So it has to talk for itself. And what I find, though, if with a knowledge of symbols, it's important for the author to simply make a very clear, visually, grammatically correct gesture. Because, for example, what happens is when things pop up in these cards that I look and I go, I did not put that there at all. That's fallout from this part and this part interlocking, and now look, oh, I can see an elephant. Well, I didn't intend that. Well, to me, what happens, that's a mark of really good art, because you've gotten to a point where you've brought in capital N nature. Because walk outside, I can see Einstein's face in a tree, or in a bark, a knothole, anything like that. And so to me, when you get to nature in your work, that's when it doesn't matter what you meant, because that gives, like a conversation. If I say something and then you respond, and I say something and you respond, it gives the possibility of exchange, rather than ramming the fact that I have the Ouroboros snake bite in his tail up there, or this other quirky fabric symbol that I created that, yes, it has a whole story and a history. But I think the symbolism then becomes more important when it doesn't have to be important, because it's used naturally well. So Rumi would say, there's a place beyond here, and I'll meet you there. I'll meet you in the field. And what happened, I totally butchered that quote, but what's interesting is, to me, there's a place beyond expertise, and it's called dancing. Because you never hear Fred Astaire or Ginger Rogers go 1, 2, 3, 4, cha cha. All you do is walk, go fluency. How did they move like that? I mean, it just rocks your world. You get tingles all up and down. And to me, what's happening is that's their particular natural way to move. So, like when you mentioned, the sun card you brought up here, that I have here, there's so much darkness around the sun card, and that's the biggest. People ask me about this, and I said, well, if I want to talk about the sun card, I'm talking about an archetype, so I'm going to fly out to the sun in my mind. Well, it doesn't have a blue sky around it anymore. It has all dark outer space. And so to me, the sun would be, then how do you dance with your shadow?
Yes.
And that brings in myth, metaphor, story with capital S, shadow, and shadow work. But at the same time, even here, you wouldn't have to know that. The sun is simply very pronounced by contrast from artistic composition in this card. So, to me, going back to the original part of the question, how is it important for people to get with the symbols that I intended? It's absolutely not. The more they know about how symbols work for them, to me, that informs how they read, just the way they read. And the simple way to do it would be, to me, to rephrase the question and say, without tarot, what do you do when you go to the museum and you look at something hanging on the wall? Period. Question mark. Because it evokes something, or not so much, and you move on to the next. But when something provides a seat for your mind, that to me, even especially when it's art that is not my taste at all, but I look at something and I'm going, wow, that's just so intriguing. I would never buy that, but oh, wow. To me, it's bringing back that capital N nature, where somehow they moved and they painted in the way that was most geared for them. And,
exactly.
Going back to a car example, if I put a Datsun transmission in a McLaren, something's going to drop on the ground if it even can get going. So it comes to a matter of comfortable in your own skin and fit within yourself kind of thing. And as a 4-year-old said recently, made a comment about, being comfortable in your own skin. He goes, look, I installed me in myself. And it was one of those. It was almost like the kid going, "Hey, look, I'm invisible," because they cover the rocks. To them, you are. So back to the question. I find the more I learn, the more informed I am. But I started at such a young age. I didn't know what the word tarot was, much less had I read any books. The card told me visual stories as clearly as you or I reading Grimm's fairy tales in English.
Absolutely.
And so to me, the symbols then become intriguing, like fruit on the tree. You just pick an apple, but you don't eat every apple off the tree. Each time I pick a different apple. But every time I pick an apple, that apple's not there anymore. So in a card, when I come back to the symbol, it's a different apple. It's a different symbol. If that answers a response to your question.
Absolutely, it does. I think that as I look at my deck, one thing that we did talk about in the group was even when you look at a card, your impression and guidance from that card will change maybe daily or even change maybe yearly when people do the annual spreads. It's your perception will be totally different at the beginning of the year when you see that card versus the end, or even that reading. And I just think that the symbols, one of the tendencies I have when I look at esoteric tarot is that the symbols are everything, the kind of the end all and be all for that. And as an intuitive reader, I give a little bit of credit to that, but really I believe it's really about what your intuition is telling you. If you don't believe in that intuition, you're going to have not a negative tarot reading experience, but I don't think you'll get the full breadth of everything you're supposed to get out of that reading.
Well, exactly. And for example, of John Michael Allen, I mean, he's magnanimous esoteric knowledge, but he's come up with, he's an esotuitive. And even when he was on my show, because of his knowledge, I think because he's past the level of expertise, gotten to the dancing, so the more he learns, the better. But he picked out a symbol, actually for Robin Marie on the show, and he said, "Do these two letters mean anything to you?" And then they flipped the letters, and it exactly was. She goes, "I know that person, and it's in Texas." And so he was able to match up that eso-intuitive with his intuition and use them both at the same time. So, and Robin's going, "You said my name," and I was Robin. I was referring back to the reading that John Michael Allen gave you, and he pulled those two letters, and then later when you flipped them, it's, "Oh wow, I know who that is." And so he was using an esoteric knowledge of what these symbols indicate for letters, but the intuition of even pulling those off for, is there a name? That wasn't on the card. It wasn't like a name.
That wasn't on the card,
line, like fill in the blank. So it was very, very interesting. So I find that the more you know, great. But I've spoken with Eric about it too, and a lot of people, call it beginner's mind, but here's the thing. No one is as completely intuitive as they think they are. Because they're speaking with these things called A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, etc. There's a technical, structural, associative meaning going on in composing words and sentences that you will understand when I don't go like that. If I go back to caveman grunting and knowing that there are no words. So there is always that technical aspect. So it's there. You can't get away from it. And I would assume even with telepathy, if it was pure telepathy, I'm sure there would be an established language, somewhere about, well, no, you're using bad telepathic grammar. You got to go back to English class, So how does that work?
Exactly. Well, in the chat room, Robin Marie just was mentioning how much she, of course, hearted you, but also how she remembers that absolutely he did say her name, and that, she was like, wow, she found that very interesting, especially with those Greek letters.
Definitely. And
absolutely.
So I think I like that question, because here's the thing: that question is almost more inciting of violence in the tarot world than are you right or left wing in politics. I mean, so you know, and what was great having John on the show is I could actually use my favorite term, because when someone's too far to one side or the other, I find it to be like a bird with a broken wing. You can only fly in circles, and you're not going to go. And the only time to fly in circles is if you're a buzzard and something's dead on the ground, and that's dinner. But that's called a goal. You know, that's not spend your life doing that kind of thing. But what the term was, you know, the esoterists, you know, people that, you know, run the dogma down your throat, and you are wrong, 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 wrong. And you know, it's very commonsensical that if someone tries to tell you you are so wrong in what you're doing, that's the one of the 1-2 punch. And the 2 of the 1-2 punch is, oh, did I tell you I'm in a cult? You know, I mean, because if they're trying to wash your brain of, you know, what you know and what you feel, well, frankly, that means their system just frankly must suck. I mean,
it must suck, right?
If it can't magnetize you into it because it rocks, then, well, I'd call it Bush League amateur.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We kind of went a little off the beaten path there, but
I like it. So let's bring up Area 52. So the question is self-study. What is the importance of self-study, even for people that have been reading for, you know, 10, 20 years? And how is that reflected in Area 52? How much astrology or tarot do you need to know or have in your tool belt before you can get started reading your guide?
With Area 52, you need zero. You need zero.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
The cards are there, the days are there, the weeks are there, the moon schedule is there that you can look at as an outside link if you want, but on their weekly summaries written in English. The cards are not mentioned at all in the text other than above them, that these are the cards that were pulled each day. And then same with the daily tarot scopes. It's like reading your horoscope in the paper, except not that cheap horoscope where it's a little too general and vague. There's some real meat and some fine grains in there, so it's not just that clairfraudulent, oh, have you had pain in your past? Well,
right.
You know, who hasn't? So that's a cold read technique. And all you need to know is how to read. English, like a book, just
English. Exactly. And have you noticed that people that are just starting out, or even people that have been reading for such a long time, and they kind of get this elitist thing where they're kind of like, oh, it's because of my years of experience. No, it's really not. It just drives me crazy. Okay. This is so much fun. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're down to like 10 minutes. So
totally. So with Area 52, what I did is it's 365 guide, signposts, inspirations, daily themes that you can utilize to just really take off in 2014 to enhance your planning, to understand what may be in the air. And to me, I wasn't so much reading for the whole world with the same 2 cards each day kind of thing. That to me felt a little BS.
Right.
I feel, though, is that it's like a horoscope. They're always so BS because they don't have your birth time in the newspaper. So what they do is they've boiled up to a general tenor, and that's where Area 52 comes in to give you daily guidance to go, okay, I'm aware, I'm fully ready for that when it occurs. And then if it doesn't occur, though, you've already warmed yourself up in the morning. And one suggestion I have is don't read them the morning of.
Yes, please don't.
Read them the night before, and then don't read them in the morning. Because what do then is it's just another part of the day when you remember, and that will tell you whether it's working or not. So you sleep on it, and it pops up in your mind. You're going, oh yeah, I'm going to rock that, or not so much today. So I don't look at it like a batting average. It's themes for every day that are really evocative in a way to enhance and juice up the creative ways you schedule and plan through your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to do one more game, but first, when someone is trying to reach out and contact you for their own reading, when they're looking at readings from you, are you cheap, easy, or don't ask because you can't afford it price?
So I'm 120 for an hour session, and hour session is typically what I do. We can also go if to smaller readings. I did a lot of phone readings years ago, and so if, for example, someone wants to arrange a 10-minute reading, lower price reading, I have all of those. You can order at the Divination Studio, which is divinationstudio.com, and they're all over in the right sidebar. You have different levels, different packages that you can run through. There's a 20-minute, just quick World is My Oyster reading, I think, for $20 or for 10 minutes, I think. I also do email readings, and there's a PayPal button on the Divination Studio for that, too. And I find that I just don't raise my prices much.
No, yeah. You put value to it, of course, so that you're not undervalued, but it's affordable.
I found that, for example, in architecture, I mean, the difference between 120 to 200 an hour versus expert witness at 450 an hour. Well, because that was, you were trying to perform and do something in 42 minutes. There was a certain different aspect of that. But to me, I just build value with my readings, and on the in-person readings, I have an MP3 recorder and record them. And if you like, when you order an e-reading, I will read it out as well and send you an MP3. Because my real goal with the Divination Studio, it's your source of clarity through tarot. And one thing I've kept all the way through my career, whether it was tarot or not, is if I'm doing something, my priority for you is that I build value. And you have something to take away that's useful, that you can be actionable with.
Yes.
So, and
I
me,
think that actionable is huge. Yes.
Yes. And I had a comment today from someone, and they said, Jordan, sometimes people are working on themselves just by listening to you. Yes. And it was a wonderful accolade, just such a high compliment, because it really, to me, gave me that insight back to the value I'm providing for people. So thanks for asking. So everyone can go to the Divination Studio, and there's a contact email down at the contact in the bottom, but it's buried behind a link so that it can't get spammed. So just click there,
Absolutely. Well, I am so glad that we got to hang out. We're down to our last 5 minutes, and I know I want to get my shiny shot out there before the end of the night. One thing that I did notice in the chat room, if you are looking for me on Facebook or even on Twitter I'm under Sherry Schoen, and that's just Shone. And then the same with Facebook. Under Facebook, I'm under Schoen Tarot for the fan page, and just Sherry Schoen. If you see the pin logo and tarot cards, then that's me. You found the right one. The other Sherry Schoens that you're finding, they're probably going to be funny too, but maybe not as shiny as I am. So let's play another game. You down?
I'm down.
Okay, good deal. So in your interview with Spampires blog on your site, we're going to do that, but with a little bit of a twist. So we're going to use Facebook, and if you don't have it up, don't worry. I can go to mine. I'm going to go to my Facebook, and we're going to look at the very first sponsored site, because, we get those all the time, and those are just as great as spam, even though I do know that I do sponsor stuff a lot. So if you see my show, 9 times out of 10, I'm sponsoring something. So we are going to do a one card on my sponsored show, my sponsored store, which is the Get perfect eyebrows that last all day with Smart Brow from the Derm store. Oh my Lord! Anyway, so
I got the 3 of Swords, and if you need perfect, use the word perfect with hair. You're barking up your own wrong tree. You need to pull something out of there, because that 3 of Swords is going to give you so much emotional refraction. If you're basing everything on your eyebrows, you can pluck and you can pluck and you can pluck, but you'll be plucking tomorrow.
That is lovely. I love that. That's very TLC. I like that. You're unpretty unless you get your eyebrows done. I like it. Ooh, it's another thing where we could dance it to a song. I know Eric would appreciate that because we haven't sung once this whole episode.
See, the primary differences between males and females, I think, is that as we pass 35, we begin, some of us, to grow hair on our nose and not in it. So be glad that you don't have, the beard from here to here. I mean, if on my show you ever see me as forehead optional, oops, he didn't shave.
Exactly. Oh, he didn't shave. Yeah, not good, not good. Well, once again, I got through like half of all of the questions that I had, so I hope one day you come back and we can get through more. As you noted, you were very gentle taking my pin virginity. I just love it.
See, it wasn't ironic. Oh, wait, what will he call her in the morning?
Exactly, I know, right? I hope I get a call, at least a tweet. Something that says that I was worth it. So thank you again. I'm going to finish up with my shiny shot. I really appreciated having you on. If you all want to get a reading from Mr. Jordan, please go on to Divination Studio and also try to check out his show as well on the Pin Network here on Thursdays. And what time is your show? Because your show's a little bit earlier than mine, I thought.
Actually, we're both at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
Wakey!
Interstate Highways on Penn, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursdays.
Absolutely, absolutely. So another place for you to get some good advice, even though he doesn't call himself good advice. I think he gave us great advice today. And let me give you guys my shiny shot for the day. Today's shiny shot is from Robin Emmons of So Much Good. So in North Carolina, Robin Emmons, sorry, that would have been bad, failed a calling. After 20 years in the corporate world, she quit. All of a sudden, she had a mentally ill brother that she decided it was time to actually put him into a facility. But she noticed that as soon as she took him over to that facility, those processed meals that he was getting were making his health decline. She's an avid gardener, so she brought him fruits of her harvest every day and kind of forbade him from eating any of the meals that were served there at the facility, and she noticed how drastically his health improved. This became the passion and shiny shot. She started thinking to herself, how can I show others that fresh produce is the key to better health? So she dug up her backyard, got to work donating every fruit and vegetable she could dig her hands into and seed and plant and get out of there to nonprofits, and So Much Good was formed. Their mission is to provide direct access to fresh, affordable food. So, for example, if you go into some of these brand name chains and you get an organic tomato, you might spend $4. But if you go to her place in her local market, you're probably going to spend about $1. And she's like, why can't we just do that worldwide, which is amazing. She educates and engages residents to adopt healthy eating habits, and then she also advocates for the right of every person to have real food security. So for that, she is my shiny shot. So that was another great show. Thank you so much, Jordan, for hanging out. Thank you, everybody on the chat room, for talking. I didn't see any questions that you all had for me, but it was funny having you on and listen to you guys talk back and forth. If you want to find out more about Jordan, of course, you can go to Divination Studio. He also has some amazing articles out there and blogs. You can go see the Tarot and Land of Mysterium cards and go get those. You can check out the Area 52, which is 52 weeks of tarot day by day, which you will be able to pull out your annual Earth card and also your monthly court card, so you can start doing your own, stuff that you need to do to keep yourself shiny this 2014. So there you go. Thank you all so much, and thank you again, Jordan, for an amazing show.